Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and first off, I was going to review Your Honor today because the season 2 first episode, I guess it came out where you can watch it on Showtime or something, but then I looked and it says the 15th, so I'm kind of confused. I'm going to just review the show on Sundays like I used to, even though I guess the episode came out today. I'm really confused about that because they marketed it to where they said it was coming out the 13th, so whatever. And then I was also going to do a ranking video today because I really want to get those rankings done. I get really tired when I do these ranking videos and do like a million of them, and they're so involved with the editing and with getting all the pictures and things. So, but I'm not feeling as well today because I still have a little bit of food poisoning from chicken McNuggets. I don't know what happened with them. It must have been, I don't know, because there was this weird on the nuggets in the batter. They had these like little brown streaks, and it looked like somebody had accidentally like flicked barbecue sauce or something, and I'm thinking like it's contaminated or something. Really odd. So I don't really want to do a video very long, and I thought, well, why don't I start and do my first Goosebumps review of 2023. I love doing Goosebumps reviews. They're very fun, even though the books can kind of be boring and kind of be really disappointing. And this one, is kind of, so I am here to review The Barking Ghost. I had rock bottom expectations for this book. It sounds like a stupid story. It feels like something that was made for a gimmick because kids like dogs, so let's make a dog book. And then the cover is really, really good, which is always kind of a red flag with Goosebumps books because you find that the worser books have the better covers for the most part. There are a couple exceptions on both sides. And it is a really great cover, by the way. Like, this is one of, in my opinion, the best covers. I really love the color scheme of like these darks and these reds and the dark blue and the dark, the blacks and the grayish. I love how it's like this. It looks so creepy. It looks like you would not want to see this dog. Like, it is actually a scary image, and it makes you think, wow, this book is going to be scary. It's good. And I love the red glowing eyes, of course. Those are always a staple of like any like ghosts or monsters. They gotta have like glowing eyes. But then I started reading this book like a year ago, like when I was still reading the Goosebumps books every day for like a couple of months. I started it and I was bored, so I turned it off. And I thought, I'll finish it one of these days. And then I tried listening to it again last year. I listened to like 3 minutes, and then I turned it off again. And then finally this year, the 13th, Friday the 13th, I finally got through the book. And what do you know, I actually like the book. I think that this is not that bad. Maybe it's just because my expectations were so low that it would have been hard to disappoint me unless it was like a modern day thing. Because that's the funny thing about modern day movies and shows is that, like with, and this is something I probably need to stop talking about, with Better Call Saul, that was a show that I knew after season 5, season 6 was going to suck because of the plots that they decided to go with. But somehow, it was even worse than what I ever could have expected. And, I didn't think it... So this book, The Barking Ghost, I really didn't think it was going to be anything. And it was okay. Like, I liked some stuff in it. I thought it was pretty good. I would read it again if I was bored. But the thing about this book is that, funnily enough, I ranked the book, and I X'd out of the ranking page for some reason. It's right there in the middle. It's in the middle of, it is like just completely dead middle, basically. It's not great and it's not terrible. It's a story about this kid named Cooper and his shithead brother Mickey. And Mickey pulls pranks on him and he's a jerk to him and he scares him at nighttime or something. And then he also ends up meeting a really weird girl named Fergie. And that was one of the weirdest things about the book, was the fact that this girl is named Fergie after a duchess. That was bizarre. I like that. That was one of the weirdest things about the book. It was so random. It was so out of nowhere. It was so, like, why? Like, it really had nothing to do with her character. It didn't lead to anything interesting. It didn't have any interesting story behind why her name is Fergie or anything. It was just, and by the way, my name is Fergie, and I'm named after a duchess. It's like, wow. Like, it was so bizarre. One of the weirder things about this book, too, is, it is another gay book where they never really have the main boy and the main girl fall in love or anything. Or even just have one of them have a crush on the other, which is very realistic. I mean, they're like 12. I'm trying to think. Yeah, like, I had a crush or two at that age. A couple of them, I mean, it depends if it's the 5th grade or 6th grade you want to talk about. With 5th grade, there were like 2, but then it just became 1 at the end, but the one at the end was kind of like, she's kind of dull. So, she wasn't unique and quirky like Fergie. But it's the fact that, like, they never have any interest, like, they have these male and female relationships, and they never even have a crush on the other. It's never anything like that. It's so weird. It's so gay. But in this book, actually, it's less gay than other Goosebumps books, because you can kind of tell that he has a bit of a crush on her a little bit. And so I kind of like that, too, because it felt a lot more real. It felt a lot more natural to real life, that, that if he would meet a girl, he'd have a crush on her. And the book is basically about this kid. He moves to a new house in the middle of the woods, which is a very cool setting for a Goosebumps story. I could think of a lot of great stories you could tell in the middle of the woods. The woods are a scary place. They're not a happy fairy tale place like these fucking faggoty ass Disney things like to make you think. Like the forest is where you get killed. The forest is where you get stalked by a predator and then you get eaten and killed. It's where you find cults that are doing secret rituals. It's where you find, like, fucking edgelords sniffing firecrackers up their you-know-whats, and it's not a happy place. It's not a place where you run around skipping rope and talking to mice and stuff. Like it's a scary place. So there's like ghost dogs and there's some scary encounters with them. And finally, at a certain point of the book, the Cooper and his I guess I'm just gonna call her his crush Fergie, they get led by these two ghost dogs into this place, and they call it the changing room. That was kind of weird and out of nowhere. And it's a big twist. Like, for me, I think that the twist and the greatest reveal happens when these ghost dogs talk, and they say that we were people in the medieval times or something, and we were somebody put a spell on us, an evil spell, and they turned us into dogs, and we are forced to forever wander around this forest. And I actually thought, wow, that's a cool story. That is a cool idea to be, just thinking about if you were forced to roam around the forest for eternity as a dog. Like, it's pretty scary. Because I guess these dogs can never leave. They can never leave the forest. And it's unfortunate because they never really went anywhere with that. They never really made you see the horrors of the forest. I mean, the only horror in the forest in the whole book were these dogs. And I was wondering when they would have like a sequence at nighttime where the dogs would be running around the forest, and we would see like other monsters or maybe bad people or something like that. Could have been really scary. And so what happens is that these people that are inside the dogs, they change bodies, and they jump into the bodies of these kids, and then the kids become the dogs. And so you could have had a whole sequence where before they even get back to their house, the dogs, who are now the kids, run around the forest and they run into some scary shit. Like, it could have been really scary. But instead, they just automatically get back to the house. And to me, that is where the book gets good, though, because it's fun to see these kids as the dogs. It's funny how they kind of act like dogs, and they have these moments where, oh shit, there's fleas all over me and stuff like that. Like, there's some really like random, funny, dark humor moments. And the fact that one of the weirdest things about this book, too, is, if I already haven't named enough weird things, is that the main kid, Cooper, he loves liver. And you know as well as I know, no, there's no kid in the universe, like hardly any kid that likes liver. Like, no kid likes liver except for like a couple of people. And so Cooper is like really hungry for liver that the family has. And so it's funny because it feels like something that a dog would think. And another thing that they pointed out throughout the book was that the Cooper has like weird ears or something. Like, he has like big ears. And it was kind of interesting because they were pointing out how these kids have weird qualities that are almost like dogs already. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. And I'm really grasping at straws here. The book is just pretty average. Like, you're just going through it and it's like, okay, it's not terrible, it's not bad. It's another Goosebumps book over with. And finally, at the end, the ending is kind of disappointing a little bit too, because it's pretty intense. Because something they don't touch on is, who are these people? Like, what did they do to be put under the spell, to be put into these dogs? That was pretty interesting, They could have had more to that. They could have, in fact, you could have really told the story from the point of view of these dogs, which I said before about Phantom of the Auditorium, because you think about how scary it would be to be forced to do this for hundreds of years. And these people who are in these dogs, they really do have a good reason to want to swap bodies with these kids. Like, obviously they can't find their own bodies and swap into those because they're skeletons. So it's a pretty interesting conundrum that they're in. And it's probably something you couldn't have solved without a witch. And so that's another thing about this book, is that I kind of thought after that, you could have had a witch living in the middle of the woods. She could have been a good witch or a neutral witch, and she could have helped them with this problem. So I thought that was another sort of missed opportunity. Sort of like how in the Werewolf of Fever Swamp episode, they have like a creepy ass fucking hermit in the middle of the woods. He's one of the scarier Goosebumps characters, because you bet there's people who look like him in real life. Like, that's not just makeup. Like, people all over the place look like him, and they're gonna get you if you don't give The Barking Ghost a good review. So the kids, they're gonna get fucked up. Like, these dogs are running around the house, they're attacking the family because they're trying to get them to see that the people inside their bodies are imposters. And the parents, what do they want to do? They want to take these dogs to the pound so that they can be put to sleep. So it is pretty dark, and it is pretty suspenseful. These kids might be put to sleep at the end of this book. And finally, they come up with a plan. They have to, do something. They plan to bite into these kids, like just dig their fangs into their own bodies and drag them into the forest to get into the changing room, and then switch back with them somehow. And it was just so good, and it was like, wow, I wish that this was the whole book, because this actually pretty good, and it's pretty entertaining, and you want to see what happens next. And then they do that kinda, and then I was like, what's happening? Well, then all of a sudden, instead of the kids being back in their bodies, they are now inside of chipmunk bodies now. So Cooper and Fergie are chipmunks. And that's the end of the book. Obviously, that twist at the end was stupid. It would have been better if they had just turned back into themselves. And then you could have had another twist. I don't know what that twist would be, but it would probably take me like 5 minutes to come up with a better twist than they turn into chipmunks. It was so random, so stupid, but it's not that bad. I mean, I would recommend this book. I don't think it's terrible like everyone else. People, like even R.L. Stine, he says that this is one of the worst ones, or the worst one. I would highly disagree with that. I would much rather reread this book than reread, even Stay Out of the Basement. So I give this book a C+. I also think that they can make a sequel, obviously an easy sequel, since this is an unresolved story. I mean, that's the thing. Even in some of these books where they have these outrageous twists, they still have a resolved plot. Well, this doesn't. So I think that he could make a sequel one of these days, or maybe somebody else will. I really hate to think what somebody on Tumblr would do with the story, though. That's all I'll say about that. So please like this video, comment, tell me what you think of the barking ghost, because I know a lot of people hate it. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as people say. And then please subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more honest Goosebumps books reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.